John Ingram, a lieutenant in the Australian Navy, arrives home by train. On the platform, all the soldiers are greeted by their wives, except John, who begins to worry more and more. Why didn't his wife Ray come to meet him? 2 police officers approach John and deliver terrible news. Unable to fully process what he hears, John heads to the hospital. His son has died, and his wife is in intensive care, unconscious. John sees Ray lying in a hospital bed, connected to life support machines. She doesn't respond to anything and keeps seeing the same dream over and over. She and their son Danny are on their way to the station to meet John. It's raining heavily, and visibility is poor. Suddenly the boy drops a toy and unbuckles his seatbelt. At that moment Ray loses control and crashes into another car. Some time passes, but the same nightmare continues to haunt Ray. She wakes up screaming, and John holds her, trying to calm her down. Ray cannot come to terms with the loss of their son. John tells her they need to be strong, because they can't bring Danny back. That's why they've gone on a cruise aboard their yacht, to go through the grief together and then return home to start over. The couple embrace for a long time. Around them is nothing but the calm, endless ocean. Suddenly their dog starts barking loudly. John climbs up to the deck and looks toward the horizon, but sees nothing unusual. Ray has been overusing sedatives, which upsets John. He wants her to stop suppressing her emotions with chemicals. Later, under a bright and high sun, Ray swims in the warm ocean. Soon they spot a yacht on the horizon, clearly damaged by a storm. John tries to make contact via radio, but gets only silence in return. He logs the sighting in the ship's journal, while Ray continues watching through binoculars and notices a lifeboat approaching, with a man on board. When the man reaches the Ingram's yacht, John helps him aboard. The man looks frightened and clearly in shock. After calming down a little, the man introduces himself as Huey Warner and tells them that he and his friends set out 32 days ago to cross the Pacific. But they ran into a storm. The water flooded the engine and radio, leaving them unable to contact the Coast Guard or call for help. John plans to sail over to Huey's yacht to see what's going on. Huey claims he's the sole survivor. 10 days ago, the 5 friends who were with him on board died of a gastrointestinal infection. As proof, Huey shows their passports. Nonetheless, John insists on checking Huey's yacht. On the verge of panic, Huey declares he will never go back there, saying he can't bear to see that place again. He doesn't care about his belongings left behind. The water has ruined almost everything anyway. After encouraging Huey to rest, John examines the guest ship log, which he had brought along with the documents. With 25 years of maritime experience, John senses that something is off about Huey's story and shares his concerns with his wife. Ray asks her husband not to pressure Huey, he's already been through so much. Once certain that Huey is asleep, John locks the cabin door from the outside and prepares to head to the damaged vessel to check everything for himself. Ray doesn't think it's a good idea but knows she won't be able to change his mind. While Ray plays with their dog on the deck, John reaches Huey's yacht, named Orpheus, and climbs aboard where an eerie silence hangs in the air. Meanwhile, Huey wakes up. John inspects the yacht. The hold is indeed flooded. Huey discovers that the cabin door is locked, while John continues his exploration and realizes the yacht's engine could be started, but the wiring needs repair. Huey yells that he feels sick and begs Ray to unlock the door, but instead she starts the engine and heads toward Orpheus. When John opens another door, water pours into the hold. He finds himself surrounded by corpses. And it's clear they did not die of a gastrointestinal infection. Huey desperately tries to escape, but Ray has no time for him. Through the binoculars she sees John rapidly leaving Orpheus in the lifeboat. Huey eventually manages to climb out through the top hatch. John shouts for Ray to jump immediately. But she doesn't make it in time. Huey shoves her away from the helm and tries to seize control of the yacht. Ray hits her head on the side of the yacht and loses consciousness. John jumps from the lifeboat but misses the yacht and ends up in the water. Helpless, he watches as the yacht drifts away, with unconscious Ray left alone on board with a psychopath. John swims back to the dinghy and then returns to Orpheus, where he notes down the coordinates of the departing yacht. His main task now is to get the engine running and save his wife. John grabs a flashlight and inspects the wiring once more, then begins pumping water out of the hold. Meanwhile, Ray regains consciousness and sees Huey dancing and singing. She demands to know where her husband is. Huey replies that John made a big mistake going to Orpheus. But Huey isn't upset. On the contrary, he's pleased to have ended up in the company of such a charming woman. He says they could become friends. Trying to stay calm, Ray pleads with Huey to return to Orpheus, warning that John might drown. Of course, she already suspects there was never any gastrointestinal infection. Huey yells furiously, insisting that those people wanted to harm him, so he had no choice. Ray realizes she mustn't anger Huey if she hopes to survive. She might have a chance, but only if she keeps her composure. Meanwhile, John manages to start the yacht's engine. He tries to make sense of what could have driven Huey to take the lives of all the people on board. Still, John can't afford to dwell on it. He sets out. Thanks to the coordinates he wrote down, he knows which direction to go. Taking advantage of her captor's distraction, Ray makes contact with John via radio. But she can't hear him. He can only click the switch on his ship's receiver to answer yes or no to her questions. Ray needs to buy time and somehow get Huey to stop the boat. But she doesn't know how. Either way, John is already on his way. Huey continues singing and dancing on the deck. Ray sneaks into the engine room, but Huey catches sight of her. A chase begins. Ray tries to outsmart her captor and throws the engine key into the ocean. But the dog dives in and retrieves it. Ray is trapped. She locks herself in the bathroom, and Huey begins banging furiously on the door. Eventually Ray is forced to open it. She pretends to agree to be friends with Huey, hoping to earn his trust. Orpheus begins to sink. John tries to figure out what's wrong, but he's powerless to stop it. The damage is worse than he initially thought. John contacts Ray again, but still can only answer yes or no. Ray realizes John's ship is sinking fast, and time is running out. She cries, not knowing what to do. Her panic and despair grow. She's terrified for her husband who is now alone on a sinking ship. Still, Ray must continue pretending. When Huey kisses her, hinting he wants more, Ray says she needs to use the bathroom. But in reality she goes to the deck to get the shotgun. The dog follows her. Before Ray can load the weapon, the dog starts barking loudly, drawing Huey's attention. Ray has to leave the gun and return to the cabin. Meanwhile, Orpheus continues taking on water. John examines the damage, still trying to fix something, anything. With each passing minute, the chances of saving himself and Ray grow slimmer. Ray nervously tells Huey she wants a drink. She starts preparing lemonade and while he isn't looking, mixes in a large dose of sedatives. When Ray offers the lemonade to Huey, he drinks it without suspicion. Wasting no time, Ray goes to get the shotgun. Huey asks why she was on the deck. Ray replies that a storm is coming and the sail needs to be brought in. A storm really is approaching. While Huey secures the sail, Ray loads the shotgun. For John, the chances of surviving this storm are even lower. When Huey sees Ray with the shotgun, he lunges at her. As the yacht rocks violently from side to side, they struggle fiercely. Huey grabs the shotgun and fires, but the sedatives throw off his aim. The shot hits the radio. The storm intensifies. Everything inside the yacht is thrown upside down. Seizing the moment, Ray grabs the harpoon gun and locks herself in the bedroom. John starts banging on the door. Ray fires the harpoon, and when she opens the door, she realizes she accidentally shot her own dog. At that moment Huey attacks her, but almost immediately loses consciousness due to the heavy dose of sedatives. Wasting no time, Ray ties Huey up. The fuel is running low, but Ray doesn't let despair take over. Bravely she unfurls the sails and begins searching for John. Darkness is falling fast, making her chances even slimmer. Huey regains consciousness. John is trapped inside the sunken yacht. He spots a broken pipe and begins breathing through it. Despite being tied up, Huey manages to break down the door. John realizes he can't stay there much longer, and kicks through a breach in the hull. It allows him to swim out. Ray scans the horizon, hoping to spot something, anything, but it's already dark. To send a signal, John sets the yacht on fire. Ray sees the blaze and heads straight toward it. Huey breaks free from the ropes. Blinded by rage, he's ready to smash everything around him for revenge. Ray aims the harpoon gun at him and demands he stay where he is. When Huey refuses, she fires, wounding him in the shoulder. Then Ray lowers Huey into the water in a lifeboat and lets him drift away with the current, continuing her search for John. A launched flare lights the way. John waits for rescue on floating debris. When he sees light ahead, he realizes he's been saved. Ray has come for him. She grabs his hand and helps him climb aboard. The couple reunites, still in disbelief that they made it through. By morning they spot a lifeboat. Ray shoots a flare at it, setting it on fire. Their journey across the ocean continues. John gently washes Ray's hair. As John heads off to prepare breakfast, wounded Huey reappears and attacks Ray. She struggles desperately to fight him off. John rushes up from the lower deck and seeing the scene, fires a flare at Huey.